What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. I'm talking kind of weird because I'm at an Airbnb and some people are sleeping. But anyways, I'm going to go through a Too Long Didn't Read version of what I saw at NAB and what I felt was worth mentioning. This is in no particular order. This is not scripted. It's totally going off of my memory, so I'm sorry if it's all over the place. Without further ado, let's get started. Starting with Sharp's 8K video camera that kind of looks like a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. It's very wide, it's got a huge back screen, which is actually quite gorgeous. It's using a micro four thirds mount. I have no idea if Metabones is going to work. I asked them about that, but assuming that it uses a nice good micro four thirds standard, it should work in terms of just being able to communicate to the lens. They were using Olympus lenses on there with the micro four thirds mount. In terms of its bit rate, it looks like, according to the screen, it was shooting 200 megabits per second at 30p, 8-bit, and it was MP4 with ACC audio. That's what it seems like. In terms of noise performance, I have no idea how good it actually is. I did a really janky way of testing it in terms of jacking up the ISO and upping the shutter speed, and I think I saw noise starting to creep in somewhere around 3200. Again, this is a pre-production model. We have no idea if that's going to be final in whatsoever. In terms of autofocus, it did seem quite snappy. I asked them if it was phase detect or contrast based. They said contrast, but they said they're still tweaking, they're still working on different types of ideas. I don't necessarily know what that means, because maybe there's a completely new type of focus system that they're testing out that they just don't know yet. But anyways, again, this is just a pre-production model. They said they're going to use one SD card slot instead of using compact flash, so that might be an actual good thing for all of us, because I don't know, compact flashes are just still so expensive these days. But again, this is just a pre-production model, and what they said was this camera is probably more for like YouTubers and people that are just, you know, doing content like I am doing right now. So with that being said, I have no idea about color profiles because I asked them about log or maybe even raw, and they just said we don't know at this point in time. Again, they do think that it's going to be coming out later this year towards the fall, so I think we're going to get more information then. In terms of price point, I would hope that it's somewhere competitive, because if it's really expensive, then people are probably gonna skip this one for now, even if it is 8K. So anyways, moving on. In terms of what I saw from lighting, I checked out Falcon Eyes. Falcon Eyes has a nice new RGB fabric panel, if you will, a flexible panel. It's got a nice huge control box in the back, and basically what it has is it's got basically all your most popular Roscoe and Lee color gels, so you can cue those up right away and you can change the intensity. This can also be done through your smartphone app, which is awesome. I believe you can also power it externally with Sony V-mount batteries towards the back, and it's a 150 watts, and it's something new that they're showing. Another thing that they don't have on the market here in the US just yet, but something that I'm hoping that I'll be able to review for them in the future, is they have something that's kind of like Quasar, but not quite. It's a little bit bulkier, but in a good way, because it's actually got its own internal batteries, and that's awesome to know. It's also got two nice strong magnets in the back, and basically that can stick to any magnetic surface, giving you some more mounting options. The kit comes in a kit of 3, which is cool, because what they showed was a kit of 6, and they were able to make a complete circle with it with the included attached brackets. So that's something I'm definitely interested in reviewing for them too. In terms of other lights, I checked out ZY Lights, and basically they've done something really amazing that I've never seen before. They've basically made a very compact Fresnel setup. It's 100 watts or 200 watts in either daylight and tungsten, or bicolor in both. And if it's a 100 watt, it's completely passively cooled. If it's 200 watts, there is a fan that they've lowered the ramp of the fan so that you don't have to hear it at all. Now, I don't know if that's how low it actually is on the show floor, but basically I'm going to take their word for it at this point. But basically they've figured out how to make sure, using LED technology, to have a Fresnel lens that's basically literally about this thick, and then it expands with a knob in the back. So you essentially, in the same footprint of an RE650 or an RE1K, you're going to basically be able to put like 3 of these in the same spot. Now, it is water resistant, it's not waterproof, so if you're out in the rain or the snow, it should handle it just fine. So that's definitely something really cool, and I hope that I'll get to see more from ZY Lights in the future. I did check out GVM's booth, and they were showing off their new cob LEDs, the one with RGB or the one with daylight, and it has a built-in Fresnel lens as well. And that's something that I've asked them, hey, I would love to review it a little bit more, because at 150 some watts, those are quite powerful. And at the price point that they're at, GVM has done an amazing job, and I'm really happy for them. And I really hope that they will continue to develop more in their lighting division. I checked out PDmovie. PDmovie does a lot of wired and wireless follow focus systems, and the one that I was really interested in was this tiny little controller with a thumb wheel, and it worked quite well with its motors. And basically that's something that a lot of us independent filmmakers would love to use with our like GH5 and Sigmas. They did have some other ones, up to 3 channels of wireless follow focus, and it's a new one. And basically that motor was extremely sensitive in terms of that I could barely move the wheel, and there was literally no latency between the wheel and the actual motor, and it literally moved exactly how I moved, which is amazing, because that's something I definitely want to see. They have something with up to 3 channels. There's one remote that actually can move 2 motors at once. One has a rocker wheel, one has a rocker and one has a wheel on top. And depending on how your setup is, you can actually combine all 3, and then you can move the iris, the zoom, and the focus of your cinema lens. But I have a feeling that a lot of us might actually just want to use the 2-channel one that's in one handle, because if you're just going to be focusing and zooming your lens, what have you, that's something that's definitely very awesome. But if not, then the 1-channel is something that you can use as well. The price points that I can remember is 1 channel is $7.99, 2 channels is $14.99, and all 3 channels is $19.99. So that's something I definitely want to check out, but more so just that tiny little wheel that they had. I checked out the Saramonic booth. They make wireless audio kits, and they have completely expanded their UWMIC9 series. And basically they have one that's just an XLR module that can go onto your cinema camera if you want to, and it can actually take your 2 transmitters from their original pack and can go into a mono signal into it. I'm really interested in this one because it basically doesn't have a major antenna, which is awesome, and it can go straight into a recorder, what have you. They also have one for a cell phone, which is awesome, because I saw a lot of people with cell phones today with their at NAB, so something to get nice crisp audio is good. Now, one thing that I really wish I had with me that I didn't know they had is something called a VRM1. I believe is the model number, and basically it's an XLR module that plugs into your microphone, but it also has an SD card built in on the bottom, so you actually have a recorder as well. But the kicker here is that it delivers 48 volts of phantom power. So if your microphone needs it, you can have it, and you can go on a trade show floor without any other recorders, and you have everything compacted right there with you for Saramonic. I checked out Cineroid. Thank you. Because one of our viewers here actually asked me, hey, come check me out, and I did. And Cineroid had a lot of studio lights, because a lot of them were being controlled from some major control boxes, and they are quite hefty. So for independent filmmakers, it might be a little bit harder to lug around this equipment, but if you're a studio, it's definitely good. However, they do have one light that I'm really interested in, and once they finish the production, I'm going to get a chance to review it for you guys. And basically, it's a little portable light that has its own built-in battery, and it's RGB, and it's no bigger than the size of a pretty substantial smartphone, but it's got some magnets again, and this is something we're starting to see. It's got some magnets, so you can actually stick it onto the wall depending on if the surface is magnetic or not, and the magnets were actually quite strong. So that is something I'm really interested in reviewing once they finish the final production unit, and I will get that review out to you guys as soon as possible. And lastly, I checked out Andycine. Andycine had some amazing monitors. The new one that they're coming out with soon is something called the F6, yes, the F6 Plus. So what this is you have a touch screen. You have an SD card on the bottom, because you can import your own 3D LUTs into it, which is amazing. Now you actually have an HDMI in and an HDMI out port, which is great. They've kept that 8-volt out to a dummy battery for your GH5 and other kind of cameras. And then, of course, with it being touchscreen, you actually can now go up to about 6 different custom functions, which is amazing. So you can basically customize that. The second thing that they have is a 7-inch super ultra bright monitor, and it comes in at 2,200 nits, which is insane because I remember when 500 nits was a thing, but now we're at 2,200. This thing is made out of solid aluminum to handle the heat that comes off of it. Now it was warm, it wasn't hot, so that's awesome. Towards the back, there's two different models. There's an HDMI only, or there's an HDMI with also SDI in and out. These are 3G SDI, so at 1080p, these are not 6G. You still are able to power it either through a battery or through a 12-volt source, and they've kept that 8-volt output for people that want to power their cameras with it. I love that Andycine continues to do this, so awesome on them. And hey, that is literally all I can remember right now off the top of my head from NAB Day 1. So hopefully this recap has been helpful for you, and I will see you guys tomorrow in the Day 2 recap, and I will report anything that I can see because it's late. And again, thank you guys for watching. See you guys tomorrow.